I've been putting this video off for a little while because it is a hard video to make. It's a hard concept to figure out, and I don't want to confuse anybody. I've tried to make this video several times now, and instead of having it be structured, I think I'm just going to invite you into the studio today like you're having a private lesson with me, and we're just going to talk about the thumb. Welcome to Banjo Quest. Before we get started talking about the Dead Thumb Society of Clawhammer Banjo today, I do want you to check out Banjo Quest. The link is in the description below. Banjo Quest is my Patreon campaign. It is a community of like-minded players all gathering around this idea of making their Clawhammer journey more fun and better. Tons of exclusive tab, exclusive videos, Discord server, Banjo merch, discounts, what else? Banjo camps several times a year if you want in on all of that and to join a community that is just brimming with positivity and enthusiasm around Clawhammer Banjo. Check the link in the description below. I hope to see you over there. All right, enough of that. Let's get started. Now, this video is a response to the fact that over the years, I've seen a lot of people, when they play Clawhammer Banjo, struggle with the thumb aspect of the basic Clawhammer stroke. There are two aspects to the stroke that are difficult to get your head around. The first one we talked about last week. It is the downstroke. It's about follow through, punching through the strings to a target beyond. That's 50% of the work we do with our striking hand. So today we're talking about that other 50%, the thumb. And what I see most is that people are working way too hard with the thumb. So I want to introduce to you today a concept that I call the dead thumb. And this is what I mean. Grab a banjo. I'm tuned to sawmill. We're not even going to need to touch the banjo with our fretting hand today. We're just going to think about the right hand or the striking hand. So what I like to do is I like to just start by putting my thumb on the banjo like this. I wrap my arm around the instrument, floating on the fulcrum here with my forearm. Then I press down with my thumb and I just let my arm and hand hang on that fifth string. You can see the fifth string is now being pushed into the fourth string or towards the fourth string. And I'm actually not pushing. I'm letting gravity do its thing. So I let gravity pull my hand down and my thumb into that fifth string, and I can feel the fifth string bend under that weight. And I just hang out here. I'm chill, I'm relaxed. And from this position, my thumb is nice and soft. I'm not doing too much input. From this position, I focus on the fulcrum. So I want you to turn your attention to the fulcrum, and I want you to begin to pry your striking hand out of the instrument while letting that thumb soften and stay behind. I'm going to show you another angle here in a second, but I just want you to get used to pulling the hand out from the fulcrum, and the thumb wants to stick to that fifth string. I think of it like a piece of gum. And this is why this dead thumb idea is kind of stuck in my head as a way to illustrate to you that I'm not doing anything extra with the thumb. I'm just letting it stay there and get pulled down into the fifth string with gravity. Now I'm going to point the banjo at you so you can see this a little better. Move it back. There we go. So I let gravity do its thing. It's pulling my hand down towards the floor. From the fulcrum, I'm going to pull, but my thumb is going to want to stick and stay behind. See how much thumb meat is on that string? It's a lot. I'm deep. I'm all the way to the head, and that thumb string or the fifth string is bisecting the thumb. I like that. I like to get a lot of purchase on that fifth string. It helps me temper the tone down the line. And it helps me stick there like a piece of gum. So I'm again pulling from the fulcrum. My thumb wants to stay behind. I'm going to pull. I'm pulling out. And then eventually the gum is going to come unstuck. And that is essentially my nominal, my average thumb stroke on the banjo. Let's do it again. Just relax. Wrap your hand around the banjo. Contact the fulcrum with your forearm. Keep your hand soft. Curl your fingers. Keep your thumb out, but not rigid. Soften it. Soften it. and let gravity do its work, pull you into the fifth string. And then from here, we're going to extract from the fulcrum, pull straight out into space. I'm pulling towards you, towards the camera, and my thumb is gonna stay behind stick. And eventually, if I pry enough, my arm is gonna swing open like a gate and give me a thumb stroke. The reason why I call this a dead thumb technique is I'm not inputting anything with the thumb. I'm not plucking, I'm not striking, I'm not brushing in any way. I'm just letting gravity pull me into the fifth string, activating that tension of the string into my thumb. And then I just do my upstroke. I extract from the fulcrum. And the weight and activity of that fifth string itself, that spring of the fifth string, is what gets caught in my thumb and makes the eventual sound on the upstroke. As opposed to driving with the thumb, or somehow getting behind the thumb string like this. I see this sometimes where a player will rotate back and scoop in and try to activate it more actively from behind the string. Those are all variations of what I would consider to be an active thumb. In my way of thinking about it differs in that there's not a lot going on with the thumb. It's just sort of along for the ride with my normal mechanics. And it's just kind of a piece of meat that gets tossed into the fifth string. The fifth string gets activated with gravity, and then I pop out on the upstroke from the fulcrum. In practice, nice even double thumbing pattern looks like this. Good follow through. You can hear me tapping on the head on my downstroke from last week. And the thumb is just popping off that fifth string. Now it looks like, from the camera, it probably looks like I'm pinching together. And I get this a lot. People will mistake the upstroke as sort of this pinching motion, very active, very energy intensive. It's hard work to do this. You're gonna find that if you do this pinching motion, you're gonna hit a very early speed cap in your basic right-hand strokes. I'm not doing that, even though it can kind of look like that on camera. The reason why my thumb is sort of driving to the center line of the strings, or the way it appears that way at least, is because my thumb is so relaxed, so dead, that when I pull the gum out of the fifth string, it naturally recoils to the center line of the banjo. You can see right over my third string, I'm trying to get the angle right so you can see this. I'm gonna just let that come off, and the thumb will naturally find that center line of the instrument. At speed, at faster tempos, it's gonna look like I'm actively pinching my fingers together, but I'm not. The thumb is dead, the thumb is relaxed, the thumb is only moving on the upstroke because it's so relaxed that it wants to just find equilibrium on the center line of the instrument. So this is all to encourage you to relax your thumb and not be too active with it. Flow and speed, and of those two things, I think flow is the most important thing because it's so musical. It's the way to get the music out of whatever you're doing. The way to cultivate flow is to be relaxed and efficient. You don't want to feel like you're working too hard. And if you've got an overactive thumb that's driving, or plucking, you're going to be working way harder than you need to, and the flow is going to be impeded by that fact. And then speed is a separate category. Speed is just, it's not going to happen if that fifth string is too active. So how to practice this? This is why this video is difficult to make. There are not many exercises I can give you aside from just this basic double thumbing pattern, and what I think is more important is just getting you to turn your attention to what the thumb is doing in your given daily practice, whatever that may be. We are so downstroke focused most of the time that people aren't thinking about how those upstroke mechanics are going to affect their overall playing. And I really believe the following is true. Your downstrokes are only as good as your upstrokes. So, how to practice this? We take our double thumbing pattern. We go very slow. Slow is king in this kind of practice. And we just do a throw from the fulcrum. We feel gravity pull us to the floor. We feel the fifth string get activated. We cycle up into the upstroke straight out of the instrument. And then we repeat. And I'm just being mindful. I'm out of time. I'm not playing in time right now. I'm just getting used to this soft, dead thumb that wants to stay behind on the string. I'm using that fulcrum to pry me out. This is the kind of practice that I think is really valuable. Not all the time, not 4 hours at a time, but it's a good little check-in before you sit down to play. It's a nice little check-in to see how that upstroke is behaving. Now, on a drop thumb, the same thing applies, although you are trying to fit that thumb between strings. But let's take a typical drop thumb. Let's take a drop thumb ditty. 1, 2, 1, 5. Let's go to the top of the pattern. We throw in, and I let that thumb, I've got to seek that second string a little bit. I got to get that thumb in between strings, and that is probably a little more active than when my thumb is riding that fifth string on double thumbing patterns. Let's look at that again. We drop thumb. I'm throwing in, I'm seeking that second string, and then suddenly gravity just sort of takes over, activates the second, and now I'm ready to pull out. I'm ready to initiate my upstroke. I initiate. You see that second string is bent under the weight of my hand. Thumb is still soft. It is captured. That second string, I extract from the fulcrum up, 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 up into space, and that thumb still wants to stick behind, extract out, and I get to a point where my thumb can't help but come off the second string, and in so doing releases it and creates a nice rich upstroke sound. Speed it up just a little bit. See how that thumb wants to stay behind? Look at how deep I'm throwing. Look at how deep that thumb is. Up, downstroke. Again, deep, wants to stay behind. Then I begin to put that all together in a flow situation. I raise my tempo just a little bit. Keeping that thumb soft and dead. Takes a lot of effort to just release tension of that thumb. And now we start to raise tempo. Still good follow through on the downstroke, that's important. Thumb is still doing minimal work. This is easy mode. Now as I get going faster, to control the floppiness that ensues from a perfectly dead thumb, and here's another reason why this video is a really tricky one to make, because it's gonna cause confusion. I guarantee you it's okay. Let this concept be a little confusing. We do reach a certain point in the tempo band for Clawhammer where a perfectly dead floppy thumb is going to be a liability. So when I get to a certain point in my tempo band, probably right there, maybe a little faster, I do have to add a little structure to the thumb to resist it just flopping all over the place. If I kept it perfectly dead at speed, I would not be able to go very fast. So at this tempo, I'm controlling the thumb a little bit, but you can see I'm not working hard. It's still what I would consider pretty dead. I'm adding a little structure to it to control the floppiness. That's it. So what are you supposed to take away from this video? I want you to leave with something. This is all it's a little bit vague. It's a little bit hard to wrap your head around. I just want you to think about how your thumb is interacting with the strings. I want you to ask yourself the question, am I acting too much on the strings on the upstroke? Is that what's slowing me down? Is that what is keeping me from going full tempo? Because the active thumb will do that. It will put an early speed cap on your playing. So just put on your investigator hat and investigate your own technique and see where you are in non-active and active thumb. And I would encourage you, if you find that you're really working hard for your upstrokes, that you quiet things down in terms of tempo, slow it way down, and practice this dead thumb idea, where you're relaxing the thumb and letting it get left behind and stuck on that string. And that's all I have for you today. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to control your downstroke so that you're not always tapping on the head. That's a big question. It's tricky. I'm going to show you how to handle it. We're going to do that next week, and I'll see you next time on Banjo Quest.
Marlene